Okay, so tonight we are doing quite a gentle yin practice, and it's specifically yin for sleep. I thought that this might be a nice practice to help us all just relax and prepare and hopefully give you a good night's sleep. And so that said, please don't think about this during the practice, but if this practice does help you sleep tonight and you've had any issues getting to sleep at any point and it works for you, then just send me a message to the yoga studio at info@falmouthyogaspace.co.uk and I'll send you the sequence. I'll send you this recording or I can send you it written out. So if it works for you, just let me know and you can have the recording as well. Okay, so we're going to start by coming into child's pose. So I'm pretty sure most of you know it. If you know it and I've said the name, just go ahead and get on in. You don't have to look at me, but I will demonstrate every pose as well. So child's pose, everyone's getting there. You know what's happening. Yeah, you're all in. So I would suggest, but everything's a suggestion, that for this child's pose, because in a yin practice we want to feel, in yin it's called stress, but we can think about it more as stretch or a sensation. If we bring our knees together in child's pose, you don't tend to feel much sensation. So explore it for the first minute that you're in the shapes. Explore if taking the knees wide and the big toes together in child's pose gives you more of a sensation, possibly in the inner groin. You might find that you need to prop yourself under your torso with a pillow, or you might find that stretching your arms out in front of you and bringing the chest and maybe the head down to the floor increases the stretch. And in yin terms, I know most of you have practiced yin before. I think I've seen most of you in classes before. But in yin terms, you're looking for about a number 7 if 1 to 10 was our scale. And so about 7 on the sensation scale, if 10 was edging towards pain. Now in child's pose, we won't tend to get towards a 7 or an 8 for most of us, but see if you can access a little something. So any tweaks that you need to do, then explore that now. Otherwise, we're here now for about another 4 minutes. So I will go quiet. The first yin pose is often the most challenging for our mind as well as our body, because we're asking both to come into stillness, and they might not have done that yet today. So if it's helpful to come to a silent mantra in your head to just stop the whirring of the mind, then an offering from me would be what's called an abstract mantra, such as Satnam, truth is my name, or Soham, I am that. So if that's helpful, please feel free. Otherwise, stay with the breath or with the music you're playing, and I'll be back with you shortly. One more minute here in child's pose. So just notice the quality of the breath. How are you breathing? Has the breath changed since you settled into the first posture of the evening? Can you access a little more length in the inhale and the exhale? And that's maybe a yes, maybe a no. And can you allow your mind to anchor onto that rhythm of your breath, following the inhale and following the exhale? And then gently peeling up and making your way into rebound, please. So those of you who practice yin regularly know what I'm talking about with rebound, but it's simply like a mini shavasana. So if yin's new to you, you're just going to come down to laying. You don't have to lay on your back. You can lay on your belly, you can lay on your back, you can lay on your side. You can take rebound sitting. It's wherever you can feel completely relaxed and comfortable, not holding any pose, if you like. And it's like a mini relaxation after the pose to tune in to how you feel after the shape. So take a moment in wherever you have landed in rebound, whichever position works for your body, and just have a little scan through your physical body and notice how you feel after holding child's pose for 5 or 6 minutes, and how you feel overall, emotionally, energetically, physically, mentally. And nothing might come up, or maybe something. No right or wrong at all. And just pausing in your rebound for one more moment. So the next shape we're coming into, the next yin pose we're coming into, is a reclined butterfly. So those of you who practice yin regularly and know the shape, you don't have to come up to sitting, you're already laying down, so you can just set yourself up in that shape. For those of you who it might be newer to and you need a visual, just very gently come to sitting so you don't kind of jolt yourself, and I'll just demonstrate a few options for you. So in reclined butterfly, the soles of our feet are together, and you can play with the distance away from your groin. So the starting point would be quite far away, so there's kind of a diamond shape in between your legs. And if you want to increase sensation, you might draw the feet closer in towards the groin as you get into it. And then you're laying backwards. So you might find it's fine to lay onto your back like so. You might find that that's not very comfortable and you want a little bit of height behind you, and you can put a pillow behind you. I quite like to put something underneath my knees. So if you have a couple of cushions off your sofa, you can pop one under each knee. For me, I find that supports the pose. And then if you find, again, this is quite a gentle yin pose, but if you want to increase sensation a little, then you could also explore taking the arms up and overhead and catching hold of the opposite elbow with the opposite hand. So have a little fidget around to see whether you need padding under the knees, some cushioning under the head or the spine, whether you'd like the arms down beside the body, or whether you want to increase sensation, take the arms up above the head so you get more of a front body stretch. So have a little explore, and then you can settle into the shape. And as I've mentioned already, so the practice tonight is specifically yin poses to aid sleep. So all of them are fairly gentle. So those of you who have a kind of regular yin practice and you're used to finding that, 7 or 8 sensation scale in deeper poses, you might not access it in these shapes. They are more gentle. Excuse me. So you can tweak them a little to find a bit more stretch, but otherwise just allow yourself to sink into wherever you are. And I'll share a couple of poems with you as we move through our practice this evening. And the first couple of poems that I'll share with you tonight are both by Mary Oliver, one of my favourite poets. And this little short poem by Mary Oliver is called What Do We Know? The sky cleared. I was standing under a tree, and there were stars in the sky that were also themselves at the moment, at which moment my right hand was holding my left hand, which was holding the tree, which was filled with stars and the soft rain. Imagine the long and wondrous journeys that are still to be ours. Have about 2 more minutes in reclined butterfly. If you have settled into the shape and you're not feeling much in the way of sensation, you might explore taking the arms above the head. You can catch the elbows, you can stretch them out. You could also explore bringing the feet closer towards the groin and finding slightly different sensation, or you can happily stay exactly as you are. And moving out of butterfly pose into rebound, please. So it might just be a matter of stretching the legs along your mat and bringing the arms beside your body. You might prefer to roll to the side. And then, as before, rebound isn't quite a complete relaxation because our work here is to feel into what we feel. So are there any sensations in your physical body? It might be where the pose was targeting, which is sometimes the inner groin or the front body. It might be somewhere completely different. But rebound isn't just physical, it can be emotional or mental or energetic. So you might feel something that feels completely unrelated, even just a memory that's popped up or a thought that's come into your head. So just take a couple of minutes to explore what you feel. So staying still for just a moment longer while I tell you the next pose name, and if you're familiar, you can move straight in. So we're coming into what's called in Yin waterfall pose, which is basically Vipariti Karani, or legs up the wall without a wall. So I prefer to have a block under my sacrum to do that in the middle of the room. I'd also invite you that if you do have a wall space handy and you have tight hamstrings, that taking your legs actually up the wall or up the side of a chair or your sofa or your bed, if you've got tight hamstrings, is going to be much more pleasant experience. If your hamstrings aren't too tight today, then it's simply lying onto your back with your legs in the sky like so. So often if the hamstrings are quite tight, your legs will start kind of getting little rabbit shakes after a minute or two. So having a little support, even if they're hooked over the edge of your bed or sofa like so, you're still getting the inversion benefit by doing that. If you're happy in the middle of the room, you can be here. As I said, I like to pop something under my sacrum, a block or a book or a pillow, and that gives me a little more of an inversion feeling, but that's totally optional and personal, so you can explore it, raise the hips, and then if that's not for you, whip out the support and settle in. Great. So just repeating, you can be in the middle of the room, you can move to the wall, you can hook your knees, over a sofa or a bed if you're not near a wall. Something under the sacrum might give you more of an inversion feel. Again, all optional. We won't be here for quite as long as we've held the last two poses, because if you have tight hamstrings, that can become uncomfortable. But this particular shape, whether you're against a wall in the more kind of traditional legs up the wall restorative version, or if you're in the Yin waterfall variation, is said to be one of the best poses for yoga poses for insomnia, so helping sleep. It's a very gentle inversion, and it works physically on releasing tension from the legs and increasing circulation, but also gentle inversions are very, very calming on the nervous system. So we'll just be here for 2 or 3 more minutes. Settle into the breath. So stay with your legs up just for a moment. So we're coming straight into another pose now before we come to lovely rebound. So if you are against the wall, you might need to shuffle away a little, I think. But we're coming into happy baby pose. So with from your legs straight up in the sky, if I come back a bit, just in case you need a visual, with your legs straight up here, you probably want to, if you've got height underneath your hips, whip that out, and you're going to bend your knees, so your knees come in towards your armpits, feet are towards the ceiling. So you may not need to leave the wall actually. And then you can either hang on to the hamstrings, which I quite like doing in yin, because yin's passive, as passive as we can be. So I find that hanging on to my feet or my ankles in happy baby is quite active, more of a yang style shape. So I like to hang on to my hamstrings, or if you are lucky enough to have a big heavy bolster, you can rest that on your hamstrings, and then you don't have to do any work whatsoever with your arms. Or if you feel like you're not getting any sensation unless you hang on to your ankles or your feet, then of course take that option. So again, you can have a little explore and see where it works best for your body. A happy baby pose. And try and keep in happy baby pose as much of the spine down to the tailbone on the mat as possible. If you feel that your bottom's lifting right up, hang on to the hamstrings instead of the feet or the ankles. So knees deeply bent into the armpits. That's it. And I'll share the second Mary Oliver poem with you. And this one's called The Journey. And if you know Mary Oliver, then I'm sure you've heard this poem before. It's one of her most favourite poems, her most famous poems, I should say. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. Though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strayed deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. And coming into rebound, please. And as always, can be on the back, can be on your belly, can be on your side. You could go into a child's pose. You can sit. Be wherever you would like to be, where you feel completely relaxed. So you can feel into what you feel as we exit those shapes. So we're coming into twisted roots, which is a supine twist. So if you're familiar with that pose, then right leg over left and take the twist. Otherwise, if you need a visual, have a quick look. So lying down onto your backs once again, and you wrap your right leg kind of around like an eagle pose around the left leg, and you don't have to completely bind, you can kind of half bind, and then you'll shift your bottom over to the right a little and let your knees drop to the left. And if you're in twisted roots and it feels too strong, just untwist your legs and you know, come into the twist without the wrapped legs. And if it's comfortable, you can look in the opposite direction, but if you prefer to look in the same direction, you can. If you want to increase sensation, you might take your right arm up above your head rather than out to the side. And again, if you are fortunate to have a big heavy yoga bolster, you can also pop that on your hip, which will kind of pin your hip down as you come into the twist. So these are all just like extra things you can explore. But essentially, we just want to get a twist in our spine. So wherever you have landed, if you're getting a twist, that's perfect. So we're going to move straight to the other side. So before you do, just extend your body out. So unravel, bring your hips back into the middle of the mat. Extend one leg, extend the other leg. Bring the arms beside your body. So it's like a little reset rather than a rebound. And then go ahead and take the twist to the other side. And take your time to set it up however you need to, whether you're wrapping the legs in twisted roots or just a simple twist, whether you're extending the arm up and overhead or using a little bit of weight on your hip. So just take your time, explore how you want it to feel on this side. And you can look in the opposite direction of the knees, you can look in the same direction as the knees are pointing. And then settle in. And making your way into rebound, please. On your back, on your belly, on your side, child's pose. So we're moving into our final yin shape for this evening's class, which is butterfly pose. So you might remember near the beginning, we did reclined butterfly. So very gently find your way to one side and then to sitting. No rush whatsoever. And if you know where you're going, you can head on in. So we did the reclined version. So we're going to do the same pose but folding forward. So soles of the feet come together. And as we did when we reclined, so butterfly pose in yin terms is feet quite far away from the groin, and there's like a diamond shape in between your legs, and you fold forward. So if you have, if your hips are built in a certain way and there's lots of movement between your hip bone and the hip socket, you might be able to fold forward. The outer hips are happy to do that without any propping underneath you. You might find that you need to make the kind of floor come towards you. You might only hinge naturally a certain distance, and then maybe you have a couple of pillows or bolsters so that you come down with support. You might find that having your feet further away from your groin might give you a little bit of tenderness on the outside of the knees, or maybe you're not feeling much sensation on the back body and the inner groin. So you can, of course, bring the soles of the feet further in and fold forward, which is more like a yang pose, Baddha Konasana. But all poses are yin poses when held for a period of time. That's how yin works. So if that works better for you to have the feet closer towards the groin and folding forward, if you get more of a sensation there, then of course feel free to explore that. And then we'll settle in for our last few minutes of physical So last 2 minutes in this shape, and after this pose we will be moving into our final rebound, which will turn into Shavasana. And because I don't want to talk too much once you're in Shavasana, once you're in your full relaxation, just a reminder that if you find that this sequence, you do sleep well tonight, or you sleep better tonight, you feel that it's been helpful, then please do send me an email or a message on Instagram, and I will send you the recording or the sequence written out, whichever you prefer. So just mentioning that before you come into relaxation, because I don't want to talk business once you're in relaxation. 1 more minute. And making your way into your final rest pose. So take the time to set it up to feel restful as well. So again, it doesn't have to be on your back. You don't have to take Shavasana on the back. You could be on your side with a pillow between your legs. You could have that pillow or a rolled up towel underneath your knees if you're lying on your back, or a bolster. You could have a little pillow underneath your head. Make sure you're warm, a blanket over your body. If your cameras are off, you can just jump into bed for your final relaxation. No rules. And then take the first minute of this relaxation to just do that rebound scan, checking in with how you're feeling after the shape, after butterfly pose. And then just allow, after a minute or so of exploration, just allow that to go and drop into just rest. So you've been in Shavasana for about 3 minutes, or just 3 minutes. So I'd like to invite you to stay, if you can, for another kind of 3 to 5 minutes. So really feel the full benefits of the relaxation after the practice. And I will shortly end the Zoom meeting, so you won't be left in limbo anywhere, so you can stay for as long as you can stay in this final relaxation, but at least for another 3 minutes if you can, if you don't have to hop up and do something. So thank you all very much for joining me this evening in this stillness practice, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon in the Zoom room or in person. Thank you. Namaste.